The podcast you're about to listen to may contain random lines from musical theater, terrible attempts at regional accents, and a sincere discussion about mental health. You have been warned. Are you ready to start singing with your feet? Formidable! Allez, c'est parti! Non, nous ne sommes pas fous, nous ne sommes pas ivres, nous sommes juste dans la joie. Une joie profonde, nos cœurs elles inondent. Cette joie, elle vient du ciel. Non, nous ne sommes pas fous.
Welcome to Sing With Your Feet, the podcast in which we take a few minutes to actually consider what we want our lives to look like, and maybe even how we want to look in that life. The podcast in which we challenge ourselves to understand and define our likes and dislikes, so that making decisions in the future can be easier. The podcast in which we shift the narrative on the subject of appearances, examining what it would take to make our outsides match what is on the inside. That's right. This week's topic is personal style. This is exactly the right topic for a fairy godmother to tackle, seeing as how it is what we are most known for. My name is Lily Fields, and I'm going to be your fairy godmother for the next half hour or so. Lyali Kelly, Death Zula, and your wicked stepsister will be with us later in the episode to talk about a surprising overlap of her deathy topics: personal style and death. Since I was just a tiny little fairy godmother in training, I have loved pretty clothes. Try as I might be to be stylish, this is just not something that I've ever been able to manage. What I have always loved is fairy godmother chic. I only realized this, though, after taking a good, long look at what was in my closet, what I wore often, and what I absolutely never touched. Now, as your fairy godmother, and knowing that personal style is one of the greatest powers in a fairy godmother's arsenal, I want to sprinkle a tiny bit of fairy dust today. First, let's define what I mean by personal style, because I want you to know that I am not a fashionista. I do not give fashion advice. You will not hear from me about whether or not skinny jeans should be relegated to the declutter pile or not, or which side you should part your hair on. Or wait, is it down the middle now? Anyway, doesn't matter, because I won't be talking about those things. My definition of personal style is this: my outside matches what is on the inside. It's that simple. What I wear or how I look on the outside of my body is a reflection of who I am on the inside. My personal style is ever evolving, but only in as much as I am changing and growing. My personal style does not depend on trends or on influencers. My personal style is about what I love, who I am, and the life that I want to live. I'm going to let you in on two of the greatest secrets of personal style that I have discovered in my long years of fairy godmothering. You might want to take a few notes. The first secret is this: you need to stop shopping. The second secret: you need to do Mison Place. Don't worry, I'll explain what that means. But Lily, oh, that's you. You're Cinderella. In my mind, you sound just like a Southern belle. It doesn't really matter why, but you are just about the cutest thing I've ever met. Isn't talking about personal style, well, isn't that shallow? You know what? I'm really glad you asked that question, because I have spent my life struggling with how much I loved clothes and the thought of clothes, and feeling like this is shallow and that I shouldn't be so interested in it. But clothes and personal style are an external representation of an internal reality. When we like what we see, and what we see on the outside lines up with who we are on the inside, there is a lot of dissonance about ourselves that finally gets resolved. In this way, the ideal life themes of personal style and mental health overlap in significant ways. And I think we can both agree that mental health is not shallow. And if our personal style has the ability to impact our mental health, which I would argue it does, then we need to take it seriously. Yes, but Lily, how can we understand our personal style if we stop shopping? Whoa. Aren't you getting a little bit ahead of yourself? I know for a fact that saying we need to stop shopping in order to get a handle on our personal style is controversial. But there are several other ideal life-related overlaps that come in to justify this. For example, For some of us, shopping is a coping mechanism. When we're faced with emotions that we can't process, some of us stress or binge eat. Some of us shop. Neither of these are healthy, and neither of these actually help us deal with the unprocessed emotions. Let me tell you from personal experience, it was easier for me to stop shopping for a full year than it is to stop binge eating for one day. I like to tackle projects at which I know I can succeed, so I stopped shopping, and in the process, I learned how to deal with some of my emotions in a healthier way. Another ideal life theme that overlaps significantly with personal style is the theme of contentment. We haven't talked about contentment yet, but it's the theme that deals with all of the stuff that I have in my possession. Learning to be content with what I already have and to stop wanting things that I can't have. Stopping shopping is dropping ourselves off mid-contentment. And for the time we set aside for ourselves to stop shopping, we have to learn to properly care for or to make usable and study our actual usage of the things that we already have. Contentment is also the category in which, after we have carefully examined how much of, or if at all we use something, we can declutter items that we don't use for whatever reason. When we stop bringing new items into our closet, we can make progress in these other two ideal life categories. And I promise that progress in these areas can make a lot of the rest of our out-of-control life seem more manageable. A very dear friend of mine showed up at the house the other day with her husband and her 2 children. Now, if you're a regular listener, you've actually met her before. Her name is Myrtille, and back in episode 8, she shared with us some of her "In My Ideal Life, I Am a Person Who" statements. Her eldest child is 5, her youngest is about 1.5 years. I see her several times a month, but this time, something was just different about her. When she arrived, I narrowed my eyes at her, trying to figure out what looked different. She usually looks great, but this time, she looked genuinely breathtaking. But why? Was she wearing different glasses? A new dress? Was she wearing makeup? I couldn't put my finger on it. "All right," I said to her, "you look amazing." And you know what she answered? "Mison Place." We giggled for a second because she and I both knew where she got that idea from. Mison Place. It's a fancy French expression that means to put things in their place. It actually comes from the restaurant industry, and it describes the process of getting out all the ingredients and utensils needed to make a meal in advance, so you don't have to go searching for them when it's time to start a recipe. On my blog, I have written many odes to the process of mise en place, which is where Myrtille had heard about it. I spent a whole month last year laying out the whys and the hows. Here on the podcast, I've mentioned it as one of the first concrete steps that I took that helped me out of my postpartum depression. I use mise en place to describe any time that we make decisions in advance in order to facilitate a future, potentially stress-filled moment. Whether it's preparing my coffee maker in the evening when I go to bed, so that in the morning all I have to do is turn it on, or setting out my clothes and my underwear in the bathroom the night before so that I don't have to decide in the morning what I'm going to wear. Mise en place is a way to get me out of decision paralysis. We talked about decision paralysis, or decision phobia, last week. It's when, in the stress of a moment, we simply don't know how to make a decision. So we either don't make one at all, and we miss out, or we make an ill-considered decision. Another benefit of mise en place is that it alleviates decision fatigue when it's part of a routine. By pre-making a decision that isn't urgent, we will have more space in our thoughts and our hearts to make better decisions that are of greater importance. This is a fact. Our ideal life theme of personal style, habits and routines, and making wise decisions are all overlapped. Myrtille went on to say that although she hasn't made mise en place an everyday habit, it has helped her rediscover her closet. And in that way, as a busy working wife and mother, it's brought her a few more small beads of joy to her life. So you see, mise en place isn't just for fairy godmothers. It can help real people too. In my ideal life, I am a person who. I am a person who never says, "I have nothing to wear." I am a person who knows what looks good on her. I am a person who loves and takes care of everything she owns. I am a person who always looks effortlessly put together. I am a person who has more good hair days than bad. I am a person who doesn't just look good for my age. I am a person who can alter and tailor her clothes to make them fit. I am a person who dresses for the life she wants. Now I want you to take a look at your In My Ideal Life, I am a person whose statements, and look for any that have to do with your personal style. Here are a few statements that listeners have shared with me that I found particularly interesting. In my ideal life, I'm a person who supports sustainable fashion sources, wears out clothes and mends them instead of replacing them with new. I'm a person who has a unified look, like a uniform, so I don't have to think about clothes. I'm a person who chooses quality over quantity. I'm a person who will shell out more for a quality item. You see, whether we like it or not, the way we dress and the changeable parts of our appearance speak volumes about who we are as people. These are choices that we make. And like we said last week, making wise decisions can help us avoid regrets. This is just as true when it comes to our wardrobes as it is for anything else. To say that a person in her ideal life has a kind of uniform, what does that say about her? It says that she's practical. It says that she likes simplicity. It says that she wants to save up space in her heart and her mind to make decisions about things that are of greater importance to her than her clothes. If you haven't completed your In My Ideal Life, I am a person who statements, you really should. Your responses to these prompts can be quite eye-opening and will, as it did in the case of Myrtille, or at least in the last person I mentioned, help make decisions that bring more joy. Articulating your ideal life is a first step to having more joy. In 2021, I decided as a part of an ongoing effort to pursue my ideal life that I needed to stop shopping. It came on the heels of a little voice in my head that whispered, you need to stop throwing money at your self-worth problems. So for 1 full year, I gave up shopping, which was not as easily done as it is said. It's hard to not shop, especially when shopping became a kind of therapy that I fell back onto to avoid feeling uncomfortable feelings. To make it possible, I set up rules for the challenge. One of the rules was that I needed to do a complete inventory of my current closet. As much as possible, I tried to remember where the item came from, how much it cost, when I acquired it, and how often I wore it. Oh, it got pretty super complicated. I tried calculating something I call the CPW, which is shorthand for cost per wear. I will spare you the details for now, but let me tell you this, it was a lot of fun for me. As I did the inventory, I realized that there were tons of things in my closet that I never wore. These were things that didn't fit, or that I didn't like and never had, even though I might have bought them, so search me as to what they were doing in my closet. There were also things that were rife with emotional energy. By committing to not buying anything for a full year, I was going to stop adding to the number of items in my wardrobe that I bought but didn't wear, which was already going to be helpful to me. One thing I discovered about the clothes that I loved the most was that they were almost always hand-me-downs from the people I loved. The truth is that I trust the people I love to make better decisions about clothes than I make for myself. Also, by wearing something I received from someone else, I felt like I was with that person, and I was honoring them. This was a fascinating discovery about myself that helped me get through the year. Throughout the year, I did do clothing exchanges with friends, and I did not consider that breaking the rules. One additional rule of my challenge was that I needed to wear absolutely everything in my closet at least once over the course of the year, or it had to go. So this led to an interesting conundrum. I have several evening gowns, and 2021 wasn't exactly the year when people are inviting me to gala events, so I had to improvise. When I submitted my novel to an agent for the first time, I had a tea party for myself in which I dressed up in one of my best vintage gowns. Towards the end of the year, one of my musical co-conspirators and I planned a series of Christmas concerts, and I wore a different evening gown to each. Yes, it was a lot of work just to get through my evening gowns, but I don't regret it for an instant. I did several gigantic decluttering sessions throughout the year too. And as I uncovered more and more of those things that I never wore, I came to discover this piece of truth. Having too many clothes drowns out our personal style. When our closet is full of things that we like the thought of, but we don't actually wear, then we are not actually representing who we are. Our closet should be like a mirror that reflects who we are today, our size, our tastes, our lifestyle. We should not be hanging on to things that remind us of aspirational sizes, a career that we no longer have, or memories that we just can't let go of. Removing the excess, removing the memories, gives us space to know what we really like. There's nothing wrong with keeping clothes that are memories, but I discovered that those should be not kept in my closet. Keeping them somewhere else, with old photographs and scrapbooks, it became necessary. Clothes can be objects, just simply objects, but those objects have no place in my wardrobe. I even went further than just keeping the clothes. I undertook to transform those things into items that I would actually use and thereby enjoy the memory of them. But that's a story for another day. The more clothes I have in my closet, the more often I hear myself say these 5 words. I have nothing to wear. While this is never true, the sentiment can be explained. When my closet is overfull, it is hard to access the items that actually correspond to my current lifestyle. Culling through everything I own to get to that one something to wear made it feel like I had nothing to wear. The overwhelming majority of items in an overfull closet don't reflect who we are or the life we want or the life we have. Decluttering, rehoming, donating, all of these help reduce the overall number of items in our wardrobes. By any means necessary, reducing how much stuff we have in our closet, whether by stopping shopping or by doing a mega decluttering, it's going to help us uncover our personal style. All right, so now fairy dust number 2, we're going to talk about Mison Place. You know, one of my mantras is wear the pretty clothes. I say this because I spent a year doing an inventory of my closet, and I discovered in the process which clothes I never dared wear because they are, air quotes here, too pretty to ruin. I had a choice then, didn't I? Keep the pretty clothes in my closet like items in a museum, or start wearing them and bringing that potential for joy into my everyday life. The problem was that in the moment dressing, that is, when I'm standing in front of my closet with 15 minutes before I have to leave the house, that would have me choosing the first items of clothing that I could reach. I would never get through my entire closet if I didn't do a little intentional planning. And with the threat that if something didn't get worn that year, I would have to get rid of it, I needed to make sure to wear the pretty clothes. I got quite serious about Mison Place at that time. I started wearing all the lacy dresses and all the frou-frou tops that I have in my closet. I would pick out which of my fairy godmother chic outfits I wanted to wear, and I would hang it up in the bathroom before I went to bed. Oh, did I feel overdressed at 4 a.m. when I would be faced with my reflection in the mirror? Why, yes, I did. But I am someone who has always loved lace and tulle and silky things. I have dozens of memories that include lace. Lace, like when I made my mother sew lace onto the neckline of my swimming suits when I was a toddler, or the lace top that I found when I was in junior high school and I would have worn absolutely every day for the rest of my life if I hadn't ruined it in the dryer, or to the lace top that my sister Poppy just brought for me when she came to visit. I love lace. I could get incredibly philosophical about lace if I wanted to, and I do want to. Lace is transparent without being entirely so. I like the thought that this reflects who I am. I want to be someone who is transparent. Lace is delicate and easily snagged, something that, while I wish it weren't so, is true of me too. Lace is complicated. I know that as human beings go, I am rather complicated. But as I like to tell my friends, being complicated is part of my charm, so just get used to it. Lace is something that is often seen at joyous occasions, and I want to be someone who is joyful. When I started putting to work what I had in my closet and what I actually loved the thought of, I started dressing in a way that reduced the dissonance about myself. I was able to embrace the more delicate or complicated or sensitive part of my nature because I could associate it with something beautiful, lace. And also, I could wear a visible reminder to be transparent and be joyful. Yes, this meant that I was chronically overdressed, but this also allowed me to echo something that I heard once. Dress for the life you want. And I want to be someone who is transparent and complicated and joyful. I want to be ready for a garden party or a wedding all the time. I want to be ready for anything. So yes, I have gone for hikes in the woods wearing a yellow lace dress. I've gone to pick up people from the airport in an orange lace dress. Yes, I wear Converse high tops with tulle skirts. That's how I roll. It's just who I am now. And sure, there have been a handful of occasions when I'm just not feeling it, and in spite of my best efforts at Mison Place, I still decide to wear jeans and a boring black sweater, because some days, feeling invisible is better than feeling delicate or complicated or joyful. What I know about myself is that if I am willing to go to the extra effort to return to my closet in the morning and ignore the mise en place that I already did, then I can consider that little invisibility cloak as an act of self-care too. I know I just threw a lot at you. And next season we'll be returning a bit to this topic. But for the moment, just take your own temperature on the idea of what your clothes say about you. Be a little esoteric for a minute. Are your clothes saying about you what you want to have said about you?
Elle me fait bondir et vibrer, crier. Elle me donne envie de chanter, danser. Elle pousse à agir, donner, partager. Et tout simplement de sourire, aimer.
Layala Kelly, Death Doula and Your Wicked Stepsister is here to get us thinking about another question of personal style. When we die, what do we want done with our bodies? It really is a question of personal style. You'll see. Layala, the floor is yours.
In my ideal death, I am a person who what? In my ideal death. Well, that's quite personal, isn't it? There's only one person who can finish that sentence for you, and it's you. Your ideal death is influenced by what you value, by your experiences, your preferences, the things that bring you comfort. It's all about your individuality. You could even say that your ideal death is a reflection of your own personal style. Today, I'm going to skip over end of life and dying, though that is a time period that could certainly benefit from your personal input, but we are skipping that today. Yep, we are going right to you being dead. Do we really have to go there? As I'm the one doing the talking, I say yes. Yes, we do. Perhaps you have a follow-up objection, something along the lines of, well, if I'm already dead, what does it matter? It's not like I'd know the difference. True, and you're not alone in that argument, but all the same, I'm still going to give you options for going out true to your own personal style. Let's start nice and easy. You're traditional. You like convention. You admire formality. For you, the classic American funeral may sound perfect. Your loved ones will gather in a church or a funeral home. Well-chosen music will be played. Attendees will dress in dark colors. After the service, your floral-covered casket will be loaded into a hearse that will make its way to the cemetery, followed by a long string of cars with glowing headlights, indicating that their passengers are part of your final entourage. That is option one. Okay, you're not traditional, but you do love simplicity. Nothing fancy for you. You choose a direct cremation or aquamation. Upon your death, you will be picked up by a cremation or aquamation provider and go directly to body disposition. No embalming, no viewing, no visitation, no fuss, no muss. If you choose cremation, your body will be placed in a cremation machine called a retort. The retort is between 1400 and 1800 degrees Fahrenheit. The high heat will break down your body into fragments of bone and ash. These will be collected and allowed to cool. Any metal objects that weren't burned up in the fire will then be sorted out. This could include screws or nails from a coffin, dental work, gold teeth, and any surgical implantation devices that you have. The cooled bone fragments will be placed in a machine called a cremulator. This is going to process the fragments into uniform small pieces. No identifiable bone fragments will remain. During the cremation process, harmless compounds such as water vapor and a variety of gases will be released into the environment. And then there's a little bit of science here. Organic compounds are also emitted, and these, when they react with hydrogen chloride or hydrogen fluoride under combustion conditions, they form carcinogens. Those carcinogens will also be released into the environment. The yearly toxin release from crematoriums contribute only a very small fraction of harmful compounds or greenhouse gases, but they do contribute. So, if you do like the simple idea but aren't loving the environmental concerns, then aquamation, which is also called alkaline hydrolysis, might be the thing for you. Aquamation results in ashes very much like cremation, but they're going to be whiter as opposed to gray because they haven't been through fire. Instead of fire, a chemical process using a solution of 95% water and 5% potassium hydroxide or sodium hydroxide is going to reduce your body to components of liquid and bone. Aquamation is also a gentler process, which is more environmentally friendly. It uses significantly less fuel, and it does have a lower carbon footprint than both traditional cremation and burial. But maybe cremation and aquamation aren't for you because you love nature and you want nothing more than to return to the earth, nourishing new little plants to grow. Well, in that case, consider a home funeral and natural burial. Your death care won't be performed by hired funeral professionals, I guess? Yeah, funeral professionals. Instead, it'll be your loved ones who will bathe and lovingly prepare your body for burial, washing, primping, dressing, and laying out your body for the viewing, all done by your loved ones. You'll be shrouded or placed in a natural fiber coffin and then transported to a green cemetery. There, your loved ones can decorate your shroud or coffin with flowers before helping to lower your body into the earth. From dust you are, to dust you will return. One final option. You're not traditional, you're anything but simple, and decidedly not a nature lover. You're flashy, you're over the top, and you need a send-off to match your larger-than-life personality. In that case, extreme embalming may be the perfect choice. Your body will be injected with a chemical fluid which will make your body totally rigid and able to maintain a pose. Kind of like voguing. You could stand at the entrance of your own funeral holding a cocktail and welcoming guests to your own service. If that's not quite flashy enough for you, and your family can pull the right strings, you could attend one last bash like rapper Markel Moro did in April. His body was propped up on the stage of a nightclub for his memorial service. Definitely personal style. Whatever sounds right for you, one of these options, or maybe something completely different and uniquely you, it all starts with this. In my ideal death, I am a person who what?
I've got all kinds of ideas about what I want done with my body after I'm gone, and oddly enough, not one of them has me presiding over a party at a nightclub. I know that I want my funeral to be a party, with music and dancing. I'm mentally working on a playlist for the event, and it definitely includes happy. Thank you so much, Layla. You've really given us some food for thought. I'll put a link to your website in the show notes so our listeners can take a look at the resources you provide for so many of these end-of-life questions. We might not like to have to think about what will happen to our bodies after we're gone, but I believe that giving it some thought now can help reconcile us to the thought that is going to happen. This can make the whole thing less scary, and being comfortable with the thought of dying can help us be more comfortable with living. Let's take a minute to review the 4 questions we ask for each one of our ideal life categories on the theme of personal style. Number 1, what is working? Did you put together an outfit that you were secretly pretty pleased about? Oh, I'm so proud of you. Or maybe you resisted buying something that just wasn't perfect, although it was cute. That's something to be proud of too. Good for you. Number 2, what isn't working? Did you have the perfect outfit but not know what shoes to put with it? Let me tell you, before I shifted to Converse all the time, this was my problem too. I totally get this. Or are you feeling like you have nothing to wear right now? I want to reassure you of something. This is not shallow or petty. It is a symptom of something else. Number 3, things to consider. If you are feeling like you have nothing to wear, I want you to really consider what is going on here. When does this thought happen? Is it because you have too many clothes that don't fit in your closet? Too many clothes in your closet that were from a career that no longer fit your lifestyle? Be brutally honest with yourself. Those 5 words, I have nothing to wear, are almost never true. Try completing the sentence. I have nothing to wear that fits. I have nothing to wear for this occasion. I have nothing to wear that is clean. I have nothing to wear to work out in. Try that. Number 4, things to do. Here, I want you to do something today. Something small, like take 2 minutes. Get out a black trash bag and set a timer. Cull 5 items from your closet. Put them in that black trash bag and rehome them. Donate them. Do something with them. Get them out of your house. This won't be hard. We all have 5 items that we could easily remove. Things with very little emotional baggage attached to them. And this is called progress. You know how I love progress. The topic of personal style is about more than just clothes. I believe in you. I believe in your potential to fulfill your purpose in this life. But just consider this. Even superheroes have superhero suits. Personal style is about reducing the dissonance between who you are on the inside and the image you present on the outside. Digging into and articulating who you are in your ideal life will help you determine what you want people to see when they look at you, but more importantly, who you see when you look at you. They say, dress for the life you want. Sure, it might feel like you're wearing a costume for a while. Giving careful thought to the life you want and dressing accordingly is just one way to bring the joy of progress into your life as it stands today. And as the philosopher princess always likes to say, this world needs more joy. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your podcatcher, and please, if you enjoy something you've heard here, please share it with somebody you think could use a fairy godmother too. Also, please consider rating and reviewing the podcast. It really does help the platforms direct people to us. I want to give a great big thank you to 7 Productions here in Mulhouse, France for the use of the song La Joie as the intro and outro to the show. Also, thank you to Matt Kugler who sang it and Claude Ekwe who wrote it. This is your fairy godmother signing off. Just remember, it is never too late to start singing with your feet.